you guys doing out there? My name is Kyle and I'll be reviewing the classic 1991 film Cape Fear starring Nick Nolte, Jessica Lange, Juliette Lewis, and of course, Robert De Niro. Now before we get started, there might be some brief little spoilers, so if you haven't seen Cape Fear, I suggest checking out that film and coming right back to this review. To make a long story short, this movie is about a convicted rapist named Max Cady, who's of course played by Robert De Niro, and after being released after a 14-year sentence, which is a very long time, he decides to exact revenge on the man who once defended him because some evidence might not have been there defending this man. Now Cape Fear, as we all know, is directed by the one and only Martin Scorsese, who has directed tons of movies with Robert De Niro. Of course, Taxi Driver being one of them and being one of the best films ever made. And with Cape Fear, there's a lot of interesting imagery about this movie, and I think that's one of the best things I can say about it. This movie looks really good, and it has a very classical vibe to it, and it has a very creepy atmosphere. Because if you look at the sky in many shots, it looks very ominous, colorful, but at the same time, very, very scary. So let's talk about the casting in this movie. Now, before I, of course, talk about De Niro, because I have so many things to talk about with him, let's talk about everybody else. Nick Nolte stars in this movie as a lawyer named Samuel Bowden before Nick Nolte went crazy and had a very interesting voice. And in this movie, he actually does a really good job. In fact, this honestly is one of the best, if not the best, performance I've seen by him. He plays a very subtle character who you think in the beginning is really the good guy, but you discover that there's a lot of problems and things that he's hiding from his own wife, played by Jessica Lange. And Jessica Lange is actually really good looking. Like, I never thought of that. But I think Jessica Lange does do a really good job in this movie, but she does have that frightened, sometimes deer in the headlights look. Now, of course, guys, let's talk about Juliette Lewis, who plays their daughter, Danielle. This might actually be my favorite performance of Juliette Lewis that I've seen so far. To me, that Academy Award nomination was crucial to her because she could change moods and tones very instantly, but none of that ever felt forced. It all felt very natural. She can go from happy to crying in seconds. And I have to say, the scene with just her and Robert De Niro in that auditorium is honestly one of the most powerful scenes I've ever witnessed, because it just felt so terrifying because you didn't know what he was going to do. And then when you discovered that Juliette Lewis actually had a crush on De Niro, that actually made it a lot creepier. I think Juliette Lewis in this movie really is great, and I think she outperforms Nick Nolte and Jessica Lange. Also, Joe Don Baker's in this movie, who's also been in 2 James Bond movies, GoldenEye and Tomorrow Never Dies. He did a great job in this movie playing a PI, and I really like the actor. I think he really does a great job in every movie I've seen him in. He's just always great. I really love the scene where De Niro kills Joe Don Baker's character while pretending to be the maid. That terrified me. Alright guys, time for the moment you have all been waiting for. Let me talk about Robert De Niro. I'm gonna do my best here. Before I talk about him, let's look at the opening shot of this movie. De Niro has never been scarier, in my opinion. This role is the most sadistic role I've ever seen De Niro play. You knew that back then when De Niro was getting ready for a role, he was going to take it absolutely seriously, and in the beginning you see him just ripped. And it turns out he actually trimmed his body fat down to 3%, which is incredible for a role in a movie. And the scariest thing about that is he makes it so believable. It's like you can't think the same way about De Niro ever again after watching the movie. That is the greatest thing about any actor or actress, is when they're able to commit to a role that could be so sadistic or so funny, that's so out of their range, or just a role that you never expect them to be in. But when you see the movie, you think to yourself, you can't look at that actor or actress the same way again, and that's exactly what I thought watching this film. That scene where he rapes the girl in the bed, and he actually bites part of her cheek off, I grabbed my pillow and I was like, oh no. This, I think, rivals the best performances by De Niro, and I think it really is up there. I think De Niro really deserved that Academy Award because you've never seen him like this, and I've never seen him play a role like this since then. The musical score in this movie is amazing. And from the moment I heard it, I thought to myself, this feels like a very classic film, and I think that's what Scorsese did extremely well. He tried to have his composer emulate 60s scores, like Psycho, and of course the original movie, and I think the composer of this movie did a great job. I really liked the sequence towards the ending of the film on the boat. It felt very suspenseful, my palms were sweating, and I was wondering throughout the entire scene if Max Cady was actually going to win, if he was actually really going to hurt the family, and he actually does. He accomplishes that goal. And when Cady dies at the ending of the film, it just felt very satisfying. You're just like, yes, you got the bad guy. Now let me talk about my issues of the movie, because I do have a couple of them. For one, I do think this movie, towards the second act, has a couple of slow moments where I didn't really care about the sequences as much. And when you find out there's tension between Nick Nolte and Jessica Lange's characters, it doesn't really work as well as I thought it would, because they don't really address it until like about halfway in the movie, when we're already through so many sequences of Cady just terrorizing the family. Now we have these personal problems, and I don't think they fit well into the movie. Now, there are tons and tons of movies where there are parental problems or marital problems that absolutely work, but that's because the movie really is building up to that. But when the movie is really about a convicted rapist who's trying to stalk a family, it didn't really fit well for me. What I love about movies more than just watching them and just being blown away by not getting any spoilers is when you finish a movie that's particularly really good, just like this one, you think to yourself, wow, this was not only a very good or a great or a phenomenal movie, but I want to watch this movie again. I want to go back and just re-examine everything about it. But unfortunately for Cape Fear, this is not one of those movies that I ever really want to watch again. And that's not just because De Niro's performance will always be memorable to me, but it's because this movie's subject matter is not the kind of movie that I really want to revisit. I don't want to watch a lot of movies about rapists. So in the end, guys, I think Cape Fear is a very, very good movie. It has a great cast, great effects, and De Niro as the villain is just absolutely mesmerizing with every single scene he's in. And I feel like if he wasn't in the movie, it wouldn't have been the same. But I don't think it's the kind of movie that I could really see myself rewatching. And at the same time, I do think there are some slow parts. But in the end, guys, I really thought Cape Fear was a great movie, and I'm going to give it an A-. So what did you guys out there think about Cape Fear? I'd love to hear all those comments. Let's send them in the comment section below. And guys, thank you so much for watching my reviews as always. You guys are the greatest. Thank you so much, and stay tuned.